So then guys, we just had Apple's Far Out event and we saw the announcement of the brand new iPhone 14 models, and particularly there was a lot of attention on the iPhone 14 Pro. And today what I want to do for you guys is I want to do a comparison of the iPhone 12 Pro Max versus the iPhone 14 Pro Max, because a lot of you guys are going to be upgrading or due an upgrade within the next year where you'll be going from that model to the iPhone 14 Pro Max, because a lot of you guys have contracts that only last 2 years out there. So I want to show you what the difference is between both of these phones by doing an iPhone 12 Pro Max versus the iPhone 14 Pro Max review specs. And without further ado guys, I want to begin.
So if you've seen any of my other comparison videos recently, as you will know, we have one iPhone on one side, one on the other, and it's the same this way. We have the iPhone 12 Pro Max on the left, and we have the iPhone 14 Pro Max on the right. So let's begin with the display type. Both of these phones have an OLED display, and OLED technology has been in iPhone since the iPhone 10 or the iPhone X. But the difference is with the iPhone 14 Pro Max, it is a far brighter panel and it does have a bit more color depth inside it. So you will get a slightly sharper picture and you might also see those extra couple more colors inside. But apart from that, this technology behind them is basically the same. But then for the actual screen sizes, they are identical. In fact, the actual chassis are the same for both of these models, and they have been for the last 3 years since the iPhone 12 to the 14. So there's no difference here. The Pro Maxes on both these phones are a 6.6H display, so nothing different there. Then for the screen resolution, nothing really changes here either. It's a 16:9 ratio for both the phones, and the resolution is 2778 by 1484 for both of these phones. And basically this equates to 458 pixels per inch, or basically 460 pixels per inch for both the phones. The clarity is really sharp. You can't see the pixels at all on these phones because they are super sharp. The display refresh rate though, this is where things do change. So with the iPhone 12 Pro Max, it has still got a 60Hz refresh rate inside it. It wasn't until the iPhone 13 Pro models that we actually got ProMotion, and obviously the 14 Pro Max does have ProMotion and it goes up to 120Hz refresh rate. However, it can go all the way down to 1Hz, and this basically allows a always on display this year only on the iPhone 14 Pro Max, whereas the 12 Pro Max can't do that. After this, we've got the display protection, and both of these phones have the same protection on the front of the glass. They have ceramic shield on them, so they're quite tough. Then the actual chipset inside them. So both these phones are very similar in their architecture in the amount of cores. So they do both have 4 efficiency cores and 2 performance cores. But for GPU wise, the iPhone 14 Pro Max has 5 GPU cores, whereas the iPhone 12 Pro Max only has 4. And it must also be noticed that the iPhone 12 Pro Max A14 Bionic chipset does actually have a 5nm die, so the transistors and everything are made on that size, whereas the A16 chipset Bionic, what's in the iPhone 14 Pro Max, that's made on a 4nm die. So basically this would basically mean that the iPhone 14 Pro Max is more powerful, but yet also more efficient than the iPhone 12 Pro Max. But then moving on to the amount of RAM, both these phones do have an adequate amount, but the iPhone 12 Pro Max only has 4GB of RAM inside it, and this is LPDDR4X, whereas the iPhone 14 Pro Max has 6GB of RAM, so that's 50% more, and it's LPDDR5, so it's faster RAM inside. Then on to storage amounts. There are some changes here as well. So the iPhone 12 Pro Max offers 128GB all the way up to 512GB, whereas the iPhone 14 Pro Max goes from 128GB all the way up to 1TB of storage. Then after this, we actually have the operating system for both these phones. Both of them run on iOS 16 and they will be running that for many years to come. However, the iPhone 14 Pro Max has those extra features, for example like the dynamic island. It has the notifications and things like that inside it, and also at the same time as well, things like car crash detection is built into the iPhone 14 Pro Max. For battery size, there is a big difference here. So the iPhone 12 Pro Max, when it came out with a 3687 milliamp battery, whereas the iPhone 14 Pro Max has a 4323 milliamp battery. And I think you can see here that is a big difference what you've got. The iPhone 14 Pro Max will definitely last longer than the iPhone 12 Pro Max in battery capacity and time. Then for charging, the iPhone 12 Pro Max and both the iPhone 14 Pro Max have a lightning port on the bottom that can charge at 20 watts, and also they both have wireless MagSafe that can also charge at 15 watts. Then the actual weight of these iPhones are slightly different. The iPhone 14 Pro Max is slightly thicker than the iPhone 12 Pro Max, and because of this, it weighs in at 248 grams, whereas the iPhone 12 Pro Max is a bit lighter at 228 grams. For water resistance, they're both the same. They're both IP68, and this basically means that you can drop your phone into water up to 6 meters, up to 30 minutes in clear water and rescue it successfully. For ports wise though, they've only got one port each on these phones, and that is a lightning port. There is no headphone port, and there is also no USB-C. Then for speakers, we have stereo speakers on both of these iPhones. There is no difference here really, and the clarity of the sound is probably about the same on both. Then we have 5G capability. The iPhone 12 series was the first to get 5G in an iPhone, and it does have mmWave in the iPhone 12 Pro Max. But the iPhone 14 Pro Max does have a new 10 gigabit modem inside it. As long as the cellular towers that you're using are compatible to do that and you have good signal, iPhone 14 Pro Max will give better speed. Then for Bluetooth technology, the iPhone 12 Pro Max has Bluetooth 5.0, whereas the iPhone 14 Pro Max has slightly newer Bluetooth in it, 5.3. Then for rear cameras, this is where things do change a bit here. As you can see here, both of the phones do have a triple lens camera setup, but the iPhone 12 Pro Max has 12 megapixel sensors and lenses across the whole range of their cameras. So 12 megapixel wide, ultra wide and telephoto, and it can record up to 4K and also has a LiDAR sensor. Whereas the iPhone 14 Pro Max this year got a big upgrade where it's got a 48 megapixel wide actual lens. It can lessen much more sharpness and the pictures are much more clearer, and it actually does have an upgraded 12 megapixel ultra wide and telephoto sensor as well this year, what lets in even more light. And then also it can record up to 4K video and also does have that LiDAR sensor too. Moving on though to the rear camera features, there is some differences here. Both the phones do have quad toe, both have a 15 times zoom, but the iPhone 12 Pro Max has a 2.5 optical zoom and the iPhone 14 Pro Max has a 2 times and 3 times optical zoom this time. Both of them have night mode, deep fusion, smart HDR3, and both of them can take pictures in Apple Pro RAW. However, the iPhone 14 Pro Max has 1 or 2 extra features, including Apple ProRes for video recording, and also it does have cinematic and can record at 30 frames per second with that. Then moving on to the selfie camera at the front, the iPhone 12 Pro Max has a 12 megapixel and also can record up to 4K, whereas the 14 Pro Max has a 12 megapixel with a aperture of 1.9 and record up to 4K, and for the first time ever in a front facing camera on the iPhone, it does actually have autofocus built in too. Moving on to the price then, both these phones came at the same price when they were brand new, so that was $1,099 in America. I know in other countries it is more expensive now for definitely the iPhone 14 Pro Max, but you can see here this is how much it costs, and this was with the base model. You can pick up an iPhone 12 Pro Max now fairly cheaper now, probably about half the price of an iPhone 14 Pro Max in today. For colours wise though, both the phones have 4 colours. The iPhone 12 Pro Max came in silver, graphite gold and Pacific blue, and the iPhone 14 Pro Max came in basically the same colours except for they got a bit of a different name, so that's silver, space black, gold, and also does have a brand new colour of deep purple. So with that in mind, what iPhone model will you be buying?
So as you can see guys, you are getting a lot more phone with the iPhone 14 Pro Max over the 12 Pro Max. Don't get me wrong, the iPhone 12 Pro Max is a great phone and will be for many years. And if you are due an upgrade, you can see you're definitely going to be getting some lot more features, especially like in camera capabilities. You're also going to be getting that dynamic island. You're also going to be getting a bigger battery too. So yeah, there is definitely a bump up here in what you're going to be getting in specs. Well then guys, on that note too, it's time to wrap up this video. So if you have enjoyed watching it, please do press the like button, and also at the same time, if you want to hear the latest Apple news, reviews and comparisons, please also make sure you hit that subscribe button, follow the notification bell. Until next time guys, I will see you soon. Bye bye.